What is up, everyone? Good morning. It is Saturday, February 4th of 2023, and I look forward to being back with you with another family education and support group. I do have some relatively newer content for today, so for anybody that's coming back to this for a second time, a 10th time, a second year, a third year, whatever it is that we've been doing this, hopefully you can find some value in today's talk. And I look forward to kind of being here with you guys to kind of do what I do, and I look forward to this each and every single week. What's up, Jess? So we won last Saturday. We won last night. So our team did make the playoffs. Our first playoff game is going to be on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Good morning, Jim. So thank you for asking. And so a couple things about myself while we wait for different viewers to start coming on and for different people to start trickling in. My name is Param. I do this each and every single Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time live. But if you are unable to attend at that time, you're more than welcome to watch these on replay on our YouTube page or our Facebook page at Buckeye Recovery Network. And all of the previous videos for the past multiple years can all be found there. So feel free to dive in and get as much education as you need. The intention for these talks every week is to provide information on relative topics, at least to this channel, which is, it's all about recovery. And recovery for me is more than just that. It's about healing. It's about a new way of seeing, a new way of feeling, a new way of experiencing life. Recovery is about ultimately transformation. So like I said, my name is Param. I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy with an emphasis in child development. I am a licensed advanced addictions counselor. Like Jess just said right there, I'm a high school basketball coach. I've been doing that for 14 years at Aliso Niguel High School. I'm one of the assistants of the varsity team. I'm also a college professor, instructor, whatever you want to call it. And most importantly, I'm just a human being that is trying to do what he can to eliminate or reduce the stigma that relates around mental illness and substance abuse, and also to be able to teach something in this space. So what I am teaching all over here is anything about mental health, addictions, substance abuse, communications, rebuilding trust, boundaries, self-care, support groups, understanding of kind of these difficult phases in life for many people, and all around a great guy. Thank you, Tony. Tony Dupree is talking about himself over here. Good to see you, man. And what's up to the Marina Harbor crew up in the Bay? What is up, my friends? Cataline, good morning. So let's just get right into it. Today, I have a good talk, and all the talks that I ever do, just if you don't know, are always dedicated to the possibility of human transformation. So human transformation is an interesting thing because when you look at other life forms like a tree, when a palm tree reaches its full potential, that's it. There's no much more different it's really going to get. Some of it might be a little taller or it might be a little wider or something like that. But for the most part, a palm tree is a palm tree. Even animals, when a little baby animal grows up and becomes its full expression. I mean, an adult lion is an adult lion. An adult elephant's an adult elephant. Adult cow's an adult cow. They kind of are what they are. But human beings, man, we're so freaking dynamic. We can constantly transform who we are, how we live, what we do, what we like, what we don't like. I mean, it's so fluid. And this whole channel is about that transformation process. So many people identify with, hey, I'm an addict or I'm an alcoholic or my loved one is an addict or an alcoholic, when it's like you put that label and it's like the end. But it's like, I'm a human being struggling with addictions, but I'm so much more. I'm a human being in recovery, but I'm so much more. And that's what this station is about, man. It's about so much more. Addiction, drugs, and alcohol is not a death sentence, man. That's just the start of life. And for family members also, your loved one going through addictions, that's not the end all be all, man. That's the beginning of everything for yourself in your own transformation journey. Hossein Jun, good morning. So yeah, as you guys can see, I could put up like comments. If you share them, I could, questions, I could answer them. And we'll just get into today's talk, which is the 5 stretches like literally and figuratively, that will help you grow in not only your recovery, but ultimately your life, which, they very closely parallel each other. And in order to do it, I'm going to go through real quick and talk about, sorry if you see me a little distracted. I'm just trying to get my slides down. Let me just get the next one in. Okay, so in order to start this talk that I'm going to do, I'm going to start teaching you about this thing called the law of the rubber band. This one might be a little repeated, and but it's okay. So in order to get to today's talk, which we're talking about the stretches, I want to talk about this law of the rubber band. And a rubber band, you all know what a rubber band is. It's a piece of rubber, circular in shape, kind of oval in shape, kind of weak, loose, limp. And a rubber band on its own, very, very useless. Very useless. Like if I just have a rubber band in my hand, it is one of the most useless inventions of all time. However, the value of the rubber band starts to get exposed when you start to stretch it. So let's say I have 10 pencils in my hand and a rubber band. If I put the rubber band around the pencils and let go of the pencils are going to fall. But if I have 10 pencils in my hand and a rubber band, and I put the rubber band around it, and I circle the rubber band one more time, and I tighten the rubber band one more time, and I tighten the rubber band one more time, so I stretch it and stretch it and stretch it. Now, all of a sudden, when I let go of the pencils, what happens to the pencils? They stick together. And we are the same way. So I want you to hear this when we're talking about growth in your life and your recovery, that your growth stops when you lose tension between who you are and what you can be. So whenever you lose the tension of who you are and what you can be, that's when your growth stops. So the intention of reminding ourselves of the law of the rubber band is to be able to continuously stretch yourself beyond the limits that you thought are possible, with the intention to be able to hold yourself together in times when you otherwise didn't think you could. So after that, there's another thing right here that I'm going to put up on the banner. And the next one is called understanding the vision gap. So your first question is, okay, well, what is the vision gap, Param? Well, good for you, because I'm about to explain it to you. So the vision gap is very simple, and I hope you understand this because you all have it right now. Everybody has it. And so who and where you are in life currently, who you are in life and where you are in life. You can just close your eyes. You can visualize it. You could internalize it. You could see it. You could feel it. Some of you are happy with where you are. Some of you are kind of, somewhere in the middle. And some of you are very, very uncomfortable with who and where you are. Now, there is another side over here, which is called your fullest potential. The best version of yourself, the way of life that you dream of, that you hope of, that you want, that you need, that you strive for, that you just dream of, right? Now, in the middle of where you are and where you want to be, there's a gap. There's a gap. That gap is known as the vision gap. And this talk today is going to allow you to go from where you are, whether that's with your own addiction recovery or the addiction recovery of your loved one, to where you want to be. This talk is going to allow you to find that bridge of how you get from here to here. So at all times, I believe that human beings, we have a gap. There's a gap and we got to fill it. And we don't know how sometimes. Some of the most program participants that I've ever dealt with in my life, you can call them patients, you can call them clients, call them human beings. Their whole lives, people have said, man, I got so much potential. My mom and dad say, I got all this potential. The teacher said I had all this potential. I know I have all this potential. I'm sick and tired of people talking about my potential. I hate when people bring up my potential. People get resentful. I call potential the P word because so many people reject it so intensely. But once you define what your potential is for yourself, not what society says, not what mom and dad says, not what you're supposed to do or supposed to be, who and what you want to be in life. Find your truest potential. These stretches will help you get there. So the first stretch, and there's only 5 of them, and I got, some good material for all of them. And the first one is called the growth stretch. So what is the growth stretch? You can feel free to write these down, take notes, do whatever you want to do, ask questions at any time. The growth stretch simply says, there is a better way. My friends, listen to me when I say this. everything that you are doing today, everything that I am doing today can be improved. I have yet in all my years of life, in all my years of experience, which, for some it's more than some and less than others, somewhere in between. I haven't come across a person that's doing everything to the fullest potential of themselves at all times, every day, myself included. So the human being that wants to excel, that wants to recover, that wants to transform, has to accept the fact that there is a better way. Everything I am doing today can be improved. I am very worried of a person that tells me I'm doing everything I can and that's it. No, you're not. And sometimes they come back and say, how do you know what I'm doing and what I'm not doing? Because you're a living, breathing, dynamic human being with emotions. And we all go like this. Some days when we're like this, we're not doing all we can do. So it's just getting clear with the fact that I, as a person, can always improve. Now, one of the most beautiful things that happens in a moment of crisis, which I believe if you're tuning into the station at some point in your life, you experience crisis, or currently, if you're a newer program participant, someone watching this support group for the first time, you're probably going through some type of crisis, or else you wouldn't be listening to me ramble about this stuff. A crisis is a beautiful thing. So the Chinese, they refer to crisis as this thing called Wei Ji. Wei Ji is the intersection where danger and opportunity intersect. The intersection when danger and opportunity intersect. And all of you experience some type of danger. If you're using substances on your own, man, you're Russian roulette. There's a lot of danger in there. If your loved one, family members using substances, a lot of danger in there. It's a crisis. It's a crisis of the mind, the body, the spirit, the soul. Now, some of you might look at the crisis and say, oh my God, this is so bad. Oh my God, what happened to us? Or you look at the crisis as an opportunity. The crisis as an opportunity to look and see, how did I get here? And where am I going from here? Because that's the moment where you get to experience a new life. And crisis takes us down this thing called the detour tour. The detour tour. You want to know what the detour tour is? I'll tell you. If you ever drive down a street, the same street you drive all the time to go to work, and all of a sudden it says the road closed and you're forced to go on a detour. So instead of going down the typical path, you make a right, you make a left, you make a right, whatever it is, you go down a different path. In the detour tour, all of a sudden, you got to experience different sights, different sounds, different streets, different people, different places. You would have not experienced any of those without the detour. And life sometimes says, hey, the path that you're on right now is closed. You can no longer move forward in this path. Now, what are you forced to do in that moment? What are you forced to do in the moment that your path closes? What is it? Guess what? You got to take a detour. And Anthony, I don't want to mess up your name. Sounds like a beautiful Greek last name, but I could be wrong. Sulfas. There is also a spiritual gap, man. There is a spiritual gap in everything. I think the vision gap we have, there's a psychological gap, there's an emotional gap, and yes, there is a spiritual gap of where we are and where we want to be. You're absolutely dead on with that, and thank you for including that in there, because we are all spiritual beings. And if we're not fulfilled spiritually of our fullest potentials, we're living in one gap. We're living in a very severe gap. And that spiritual gap, I think, Anthony, is where a lot of pain exists. A lot of unease, discomfort exists. And a lot of people in that gap, in that darkness of the spiritual gap, is where they seek out things like substances and negative destructive behaviors and toxic relationships. And they start spending a bunch of money to make themselves happy. And they start feeling empty and lonely and alone in a world of 8 billion people. All of that exists in that spiritual gap. So thank you for that. Feel free to add any type of insight, anybody, to these questions. So the next one here, the growth gap. And so the detour tour, man, enjoy the detour. Like, let's be real. None of you thought you're going to be sitting here at one point in your life learning about recovery and transformation. Something happened and you went down a detour. And in that detour, so much opened up. So much opened up for you. Maslow, which is someone that is a famous we can call him a philosopher, but, really big on human development. Abraham Maslow, he says that, a quote that I loved, he said, the most important lessons in life occur when you are forced to change. He doesn't say, the important lessons or some important lessons. He says the most important lessons of life occur when we are forced to change. And why are we forced to change sometimes, my friends? Man, pain, circumstances, situations, mental health, addictions, trauma. Sometimes we're forced to change. And some people resist that change. They're like, I'm afraid of change. And some people take that change on, head on. And beautiful things happen for them. Hossein said, challenging myself to improve through choosing a better path within the direction of recovery. Yeah, absolutely. It's a choice, Hossein John. It's a choice every single day. There's two paths of life. We'll talk about them here in a second, but one of the paths is the one that you've been on, and it has some benefits to you, at least on a personal level. Jim, the journey will continue to change. Enjoy it. Isn't it weird? Some people are so afraid of that. It changes no matter what, but they're afraid of the changes coming. So the best way to do is just accept it and enjoy it. Cataline, that's why, in a way, I'm grateful for my detours. You know what? Not in a way. You should be grateful for your detours. I'm not going to talk directly to you. Your detours are where you find everything that you couldn't find on the regular road. I'm grateful for my detours. I love detours. It forces me to do things, see things, feel things that I otherwise wouldn't. So the next one that I have here is called the creative stretch. So I'm going to go ahead and put the banner up just so you guys get. So what the creative stretch says, it's simple. It says that there is often more than one answer. So, we have this logical mind that's very direct, that's very oriented to like bullet points and ABC and the next step and the next step, and it's very logical. And then we have this creative mind, which is very, I think, beautiful, but it expands and it's limitless and it has possibilities. And there's a dance between these two things that happens a lot. Now, some people are more dominant on one side, like my logical, intellectual mind is way more dominant than my creative mind. And some people are much more creative than they are intellectual. Some people can listen to music and they can see notes. Some people can look at art and see abstract images in there that if I looked for 10 hours, I wouldn't be able to see. And the beauty of this whole recovery and filling that vision gap of where we are and where we want to be is to truly accept that there are more answers than what you think is the only answer. So many people come in thinking, feeling, believing that they just know it. It must be true. I saw it, I heard it, I felt it. It must be true. My brain's telling me it's true. It must be true. And there are cognitive distortions. Jim has a group that he does with the clients every week, and he talks about the various cognitive distortions. And pretty much one of those cognitive distortions and one of those defense mechanisms that we have are these irrational thoughts and these kind of beliefs that we create. I even call them delusions sometimes, of thinking that, what you think is right. And the creative stretch allows us to go beyond what our perspective is and maybe explore different perspectives. Everything, my friends, that you want but don't have is outside of your comfort zone. Everything that you want in life, but you don't have it. So if you have it, you already got it. If you don't have it but want it, it's because you're not stretching. And the creative stretch allows us to kind of go beyond what we know and what we think we know to explore different possibilities. And there's a question I like to pose, and I want you to always think, is when you go through a crisis in life, you must ask yourself the following question: what am I learning from this crisis that I didn't know before this crisis? Because if you experience a crisis and you can't learn from it, it's a waste. All it is pain and agony. But if you go through a crisis and ask yourself, what am I learning about myself, about others, about life right now that I cannot do on my own, that I could not see on my own, then that crisis becomes the most valuable thing possible. Let's see what we got here. If you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're right. Yeah, Henry Ford says that. And Alex, so value your friend's opinion. Yeah, it's what's up, Alex, by the way? Good to see you, bud. I think valuing any human being's opinion is important, whether they're right or wrong. Just because we disagree with someone doesn't mean we're right. People get in these like gnarly political debates, or they get in these crazy sports debates, or they get in these crazy just debates about life. And because they disagree with each other, they think like they're right, like their opinion's the right one. When, man, I'm right, you're right, I'm wrong, you're wrong. At the end of the day, we just got to be able to grow beyond what we're thinking and at least be open to different possibilities. So the next one that I have here is, this is my favorite one. So let's talk about my favorite one, the intentional stretch. So when talking about what the intentional stretch is, let me see what the comment is up here. Oh yeah, better to be happy than right. That's people in certain circles of, let's call recovery groups. I'd rather be happy than be right. Is kind of what the saying is right there that Jim said, but it's a very profound statement because they use it in recovery groups like sober groups, 12-step groups. But man, you know how many couples and relationships would benefit from advice like that? Do you know how many parents raising kids would benefit from that? Do you know how many kids dealing with their parents would benefit from that? We have this need to like be right all the time, because if I'm right and you're wrong, all that kind of, that kind of crap, the power dynamics. How about just being happy? How about just being happy, happy, happy? I don't care if I'm right or wrong, man. I just want to be happy, because wherever I think I'm right, I'm wrong in someone else's eye. And whenever I think I'm wrong, I'm right in someone else's eye. So it's kind of like, it's all perspective anyways. And so the intentional gap that I'm talking about here, the intentional stretch, which is an important one, it's my favorite. First, let's understand what the word intentional means. Intentional means an action performed with awareness, done deliberately, consciously, and on purpose. So if you wake up in the morning saying, oh, my life's going to get better today, guess what? No, it won't. Don't lie to yourself. If you wake up and say, oh, I hope today's going to be a good week, it might, but it probably won't. It'll probably be kind of the same flavor of the previous weeks, the previous months, the previous years, previous decades. People sometimes when the New Year's come, they're like, oh, this year is going to be a good one. I just feel it. Man, if you're not intentional and you're not deliberate and you're not conscious and you're not acting out of awareness and you're not like really, really, really focused on growing your life, you are not going to grow your life. And someone would be like, well, how do you know? How are you so certain about it? Well, one of the benefits of the field that I'm in, I deal with human beings who come in all the time saying, my life sucks. I want my life to get better. Right? And I've been able to gather firsthand feedback, information, knowledge from all these people. And I've noticed after, doing this for 10, 12, 13, 14 years, that some people's lives get better and some people's don't. And you know what it is? The bridge between intention and actions is the intentional stretch. Everybody has intentions that their life's going to get better. I mean, why the hell would you start this whole recovery stuff if you don't think your life's going to get better? But so many people's lives don't. So many people's lives don't, because they lack this. So if you don't have an intentional stretch, let me look at the comments real quick, give some feedback. JD, good morning. JD just heard this talk a couple hours ago with the program participants. Intention means you have to take action. This is what we said right there. And then Jim said, it's what you make of it. Everything's what you make of it. And these guys know, man, these guys have seen this. So the same, thousands of people that I've seen, so have they. And they'll all be able to tell you very easily that the ones that get what they want out of this thing are the ones that take the action. But the intentional stretch takes us out of something called the automatic. Most people in life are automatic. And I'm not saying that in a good way. Most people in life are automatic. So People who are automatic are the following. Ready? So you can really find out if you are an intentional action taker or if you're an automatic. You're going to find out right now because I'm going to give you 8 characteristics of people who are automatic. Characteristic number 1, if you are an automatic person, you love the easy route. The easier it is, the more you love it. The less friction that exists between what you're trying to do and taking the actions. Oh man, that's your cup of tea. You love the automatic stuff. People who are automatic do not initiate anything. They sit back and wait for things to happen. Someone that is automatic does not initiate transformation in their life. They don't initiate relationships. They don't initiate action. They don't initiate growth. They just kind of go with the flow. Someone who is automatic lacks focus, because if you're just going through the motions of day, you go wherever the day takes you to go. You don't have a say in your life. It's kind of like my mentor who's taking 40 years sober tomorrow. He has this analogy that sometimes people are like fish that have a hook in their mouth, I guess. And wherever the rod goes, so does the fish. Automatic, man. People who are automatic miss opportunities. And you know what they always say? I don't know why I always get passed on. I don't know why I always get looked over. I don't get luck in life. And they have all these random excuses. And they're like, I always miss all the opportunities. Man, just because you're an automatic, you don't make stuff happen. You sit back waiting and hoping for something to happen because you're a good person. Somehow we were led to believe that as long as you're a good person, good things happen. Sometimes they don't. I know many good people that good things don't happen in their life for them because they sit back hoping for life to do something good for them. People who is automatic never changes. An automatic person has been the same person for the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, automatic. Someone who is automatic reduces their curiosity. Now, this is getting kind of deep because I think one of the most beautiful characteristics of human beings is our ability to be curious. Look at it, man. A child, when they're talking, when they get in those like terrible twos and then they get a little bit older and they get like 3, 4 years old. And all of a sudden, what's the child doing left and right? Why is this like this? Why is this like this? How did this grow like this? Why is this color? Why do the leaves do this during this time of the year? Why are the ants walking in a line like that? Why are the birds in that little formation? Why are they all flying in the same direction? Why? How? Kids look at life with freaking wonder, man. Kids look at life with like amazement. Kids look at life with everything's possible. What about an adult? What about an adult? Oh my God, some of the most boring things in life are adults. Sometimes I just have a conversation with someone and I'm like, what happened to you? What happened to your curiosity? What happened to your humanity? When did you stop asking questions? When did you stop learning? Because you're an automatic. You're an automatic. People who are automatic, they lack energy. They don't have energy to do anything ever. They think it's because their thyroid is off or their adrenal glands are off or this and that. Man, they just live an automatic life. Because when you do things with intention and deliberately with actions, and when you're like engaged and invested in your own life, that kind of stuff produces energy, passion. When you're living with passion, you're energetic. I've yet to meet one passionate person that lacks energy. Think about it. Have you ever met someone that like afterwards, you're like, that person was so passionate about what they do? What's the common denominator between everyone that's passionate that you've ever come across? They're highly energetic. They're highly energetic. But what's the most common denominator of someone who's automatic? You walk after, you're like, damn, that person's depressed. And the last thing about an automatic person is they don't stretch. I'm not talking like stretch your hamstrings and calves. They don't stretch. They don't stretch their mind. They don't stretch their beliefs. They don't stretch. Eileen, what did you say? Sliding through life is easier. So we think at times, but intention does bring an easier life after conquering the challenge. When you live in intent, thank you for that. That's a very important point, by the way. When you live an intentional and deliberate life, your life will become much more easier. The automatic life is actually very difficult and very overwhelming, and a lot of mental health challenges and issues exist in the automatic life because we feel senseless, purposeless, just floating through life. But when you're intentional and deliberate and you got like a direction to go to of why you're going there and what you want to get out of it, all of a sudden you get some things, you feel a little better, your life gets better. I mean, I can't even tell you guys how intentional and deliberate I am with my days. No one would believe me. They really wouldn't. I mean, some people might, but most people won't. You know, my mom and dad, for example, which they're watching this all the time, they say, hey, do you want to do do you want to do something at this day at this time? I go through like the Rolodex of 5,000 things that I've planned, and I come to the conclusion a few days later, yes, I can do it, or no, I can't do it. But you know what an automatic person does when someone asks that question? Yeah, I'll be there. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that being spontaneous and just making kind of like fun decisions in life is wrong. You know, I don't want to go that extreme, but there's a fine line there. When do you draw that line? You know, how much do you like when someone tells me they just like going with the flow? I'm like, all right, well, good luck. I hope the wind blows in the direction that you're trying to land, because going with the flow almost never lands you to where you're trying to get to. I'm just easygoing. I'm just going with the flow. All right. Don't get mad and think that you just get passed over on life when you go with the flow. Let's see what we got here. So that was a hard pill to swallow for some people. I don't know why it is, but it is. And you know what the funny part is? So I'm doing this whole talk about who's right and who's wrong. You know, this thing that I'm sharing right now, being able to grow your perspective. Someone will send me a message and saying, hey, I didn't agree with what you said in that talk right there. Like, going with the flow is healthy. Like, if you live in a rigid box, then you're going to have, certain consequences if it doesn't go your way. And then they'll go on this long tangent about why I'm wrong and why they're right. So you know what I do? I tap into the things that Counselor Jim has taught me over the day. And I remember that I'd rather be happy than right. And I tell that person, you know what? You got some good points. I wish you well on your journey, my friend. And I hope that going with the flow gets you to where you're trying to get to. So the thinking stretch, this is, again, something that most people are so set in the way of what they think and what they believe that they are not willing to stretch in this department. They're just not willing to stretch in this one department. Yeah, look at that. That's even better, Jim. So, when they say go with the flow, I've never even heard this one, Jim. So I just did this whole little rant on, people that say they want to go with the flow and they don't like planning everything out. Look at that. Be the flow. Damn right. That's pretty cool, Jim. Be the flow, be the current, be the wind, whatever the direction you're trying to go to in your life. Don't sit around waiting for that thing to kind of just magically puff you in the right place. Be the flow. I like that. You should use that tonight when you speak. So the number 4 is the thinking stretch. And again, people are locked in the way they think. They think that they're right. They think that they know everything. And the greatest gap in life is in our thinking gap. So the greatest gap in life is our thinking gap. And I do believe that poor thinking habits keep people poor. Okay, I'll say that again. Poor thinking habits keep people poor. And I'm not just talking at the level of finances, which 100% will keep you poor. But in like poor, I'm talking about like qualitative experiences of life. Qualitative range of emotions in life. When we think negatively, you can wish and kiss all that stuff away. And the question is, how wealthy do you want to be when it comes to the mind, the body, the soul, the spirit? Hopefully really wealthy. I don't care about dollars and cents, man. I really don't. I live a simple life. You see me in the same black t-shirt here every damn week. You don't see any logos or flashes all over me. I don't care about that stuff because at some point in my life, I cared about that stuff. I got that stuff and it didn't do anything for my happiness. It just doesn't, but I consider myself a pretty wealthy person. If you sat down and looked at my net worth and sat down and looked at my properties I don't have and the and the hundreds of thousands of dollars I don't have, you'll look at me and be like, this person's not that wealthy. Man, I feel like I'm the wealthiest person in the world. I really, really do. And I'm gonna cancel that call. And pretty much there's something here that says capacity is a state of mind. How much we can do depends on how much we think we can do. When you really believe that you can do more, your mind thinks creatively and shows you the way. So a little bit ago, Tony put a comment that says, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. When you really think you can't just stop there. You got to continue feeding that thought process with more and more and more of why you can. And through that process, guess what? The way opens up. Options open up. The how opens up. So, whether you read things that help your thinking, whether you expose yourself to audiobooks that help your thinking, whether you do a combination of both, have conversations that improve your thinking, you gotta change the way you think. You gotta change the way you think. And I'm not saying change like it. Let's say you have a specific way that you view a certain topic in life, right? An issue in life. I'm not saying, hey, you got to come change it and come think a certain way. It's not that. It's when you're stuck on something, are you willing to look outside of your thought process and see different versions of it? So it's like the whole open-minded and closed-minded thing we talked about last week. And people that are closed-minded in their thinking rarely ever achieve wealth in the currency of happiness in their life. They're just really miserable, man. And that's the truth. That's the truth. At least that's my truth. The next one that I have is called the perspective stretch. And the perspective stretch is simple. It just says how we view things is how we do things. How we view things is how we do things. I'm going to say that one again because that sounded good when I said it. There was so this morning I did this talk for the program participants. It's like 8 in the morning, 8:30 in the morning. And it's on Zoom. We got 50, 60 people watching this thing. And some of them are young adults and they're like 18, 19, 20. Some are older and everything in between. We got some 65-year-olds. We got some 55-year-olds. We got some 45-year-olds. They're all watching this thing. There's guys, there's girls. And I could tell by the camera that some of them are just kind of not having it because, 8:30 in the morning, some dude rambling about how you can change your perspective and how you view the world and this and that is like, it's great talk, but sometimes they're not ready for it in this stage of their life. But I told them I want them to consider the following statement. If you wake up in the morning and say, I don't want to do this right now. It's so early. I just want to sleep in on a Saturday. It's just, I don't want to listen to this guy talk, blah, 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 blah. If that's what you do, how you do anything is how you do everything. I told him, I promise you, when you have to go to work, you're going to say, I don't want to do this right now. When you have to go to school, you're going to say, I don't want to do this right now. When you have to go meet with your family members and have discussions about things that might need to have a family talk, I don't want to do this right now. Just leave me alone. How you do anything is how you do everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. And that is a true message in life that I need to make sure that people understand. How you engage with anything is how you engage with everything. And there are two different types of perspectives here. One is a goal-oriented approach, and one is a growth-oriented approach. Okay, goal-oriented versus growth-oriented. Goal-oriented says, how long is this going to take? Growth-oriented says, how far can I have this thing go? How far can I go? So one is limited and finite. One is limitless and infinite. One emphasizes the deadline, and one emphasizes development. Dare I say transformation. One is, there's not much more I can do. I've gotten everything I need out of this. I've done it all. I understand it all. And the other one says, how much more can I do? How much more can I learn? One says, nothing is bigger than me. Nothing is bigger than my situation. They blow things up thinking it's so important. And the other option is everything's bigger than me. This whole world, man. I mean, what are we in relation to this world? If we think we're the center of the universe, what type of universe do you think that's going to be? Everything's bigger than us if you think about it. This is just a glimpse, a moment in time, and that's a different perspective right there. So, what do we got here? Some comments. Anthony Klein says, wealth in spirit is much better than wealth. Anthony, by the way, are you from Tony's place up there? Are you Tony? Is Anthony from your place? I don't know. It's cool if it's a different facility. That'd be nice. Wealth is spirit and much better than spiritual wealth is probably the most important thing in life. You could be broke, eating a can of beans and rice underneath a tree, take a nap under the shade, and feel like the richest human being in the world. Or you could be whining and dining on a private jet, eating some caviar, wanting to blow your head off. I promise you, I've seen them both. How far you dress up is how you show up. Oh, how you dress up. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm a big believer of that. Perception can validate my shortcomings when I allow it. Deep. I have experienced that we are magnetic beings. Constant negativity tends to draw negative experiences. It just blocks positive opportunities and gifts. When I focus on gratitude and positive thinking, it sometimes seems magical when positive things come my way. Yeah, it's not magical, man. This law of attraction, this manifestation stuff is 100% true. Our thoughts are magnets, Eileen. And when we have a lot of abundant positive thoughts, the universe somehow responds positively, because the thing about it is when you have positive thoughts, you start taking positive actions. And oftentimes those positive actions are intentional. And positive thoughts and positive actions produce positive results. Now that means the universe does things that are cool to us, but it just didn't magically happen. It's because we actually created it. I've said this before, everything is created twice, once in our mind, once in reality. Our mind doesn't know the difference, by the way. So that's same facility. And then I'll put the last thing. So what are your takeaways? I got one more banner to put up. For those of you who watch, whether you came on from the beginning or catch a little bit of it, can you please write down what some of your takeaways are from today's talk? And just kind of want to gather some feedback. So yeah, this was great. We talked about the importance of growing our mindset. I don't know, Mom. I don't know if it was deep. Halfway through, I usually black out when I'm doing these things. I don't even know what I'm saying, but I'll watch it again. Maybe. I don't like watching myself talk, so no, I won't watch it again. But I'm glad that it was deep and you got some value out of it. Anyone else? What's your takeaways from this? Give me a few takeaways and I'll get out of here and let you be. So I'll be back, by the way, next Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Whoever wants, feel free to watch. And by the way, if anybody that's in a treatment facility watching this, if you want your family members or people back home or your loved ones to watch it, please invite them. As you could tell by watching this for the past whatever weeks you've been watching it, I don't sell anything. There's no gimmick. There's no catch. I'm not trying to promote a product. Besides, transformation is pretty much all I'm promoting. And I don't think that I don't feel bad about that, So it's a free support group. It's available all the time. Was saying thank you. Jess said I have to make sure I stay focused on all aspects of my life to grow, not just parts. Yes, please be deliberate and intentional with it. Don't want to be automatic. Yeah, automatic doesn't do anything, Jess. Automatic does not do anything. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for the compliment. Cataline said, I wrote them down, reminded me to change out my autopilot thinking. Yep. Autopilot is, so when I'm saying automatic, that's the same thing as autopilot. You just kind of wake up and go. So it seems like you guys got something out of this. I love and appreciate all of you. I will see you back next week, same time, same place. If there's any topics you want, write them in the comments. So for those of you who, what do you say right here? Sometimes it's hard, but I'll do it. Thanks very much. It's usually always hard. Everything we want to do is hard. Nothing's easy. Alex, you're welcome. For those of you who who want any topics, please write them down. Write down whatever topics you want in the comment. I'll do them very, very gladly and happily, okay? Love and appreciate all of you. I'll see you next week. Have a good one.